Rashi had cited the Chazal that Lech Lecha, it's your best interest to go. Why? So Rashi had said, there I will make you into a great nation. Here you will not be a great nation. Here you will not merit children. There you will merit children. Also, not only you become a great nation, you will have renown in the world. People would appreciate who you are. You become an entity in the world. So we'd asked, the Chazal tell us that a person should flee from honor, should flee from recognition. And if Avram himself is the second most humble person who ever lived, who ever walked the face of the earth, it's like you tell a person something, I'm going to honor you. We're going to acknowledge you. A person says, do me a favor. I prefer not to be acknowledged, not to be honored. And Hashem is saying to Avram, children we understand, a nation we understand, but I will make sure that you should have renown, you'll be reckoned within the world. So we'd explained that to be effective, you have to have credibility. If you have credibility, you can be effective. If you have no credibility, you can all have unlimited value to offer the world, but if they don't have it, you don't have credibility, they don't relate to what you represent. Hashem is saying, you will have credibility that the world will recognize your value. Once the world recognizes Avram's value, then people come streaming to him. They enter into dialogue. They're interested in hearing what he has to say, what he has to offer. We all have questions, but the questions have answers. Avram had the answers, but you can't get an answer unless you ask the question. We read that Avram, he had a hospitality center. His hospitality center wasn't to offer food and drink. That was not the objective. That was only the vehicle through which he drew people into his home, and they would ask questions. And when they would ask the questions, he had the answer. And by the time he finished in this dialogue, this interaction with them, they were committed monotheists. That's the value of him having this renown in the world. That's the only value for Avram Avinu. Otherwise, nothing has value to him. His value is only addressing his objective in existence. Serving Hashem, bringing people to understand who's the Balabiro, who's the master of this universe. I mean, you would say, the Gemara asks a question, a blessing, a bracha is not a bracha unless the bracha contains the word melech. Melech ha'olam. He's the king of the universe. If a person says a bracha, he leaves out, admits the word melech ha'olam, it's not a valid bracha. So the Gemara asks, the opening bracha in the Shemona Esrei, in the Amidas, Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. There's no mention of melech. And yet, this is the opening blessing in the Abida, in the Shemona Esrei. So the Gemara answers, when we say Elokei Avraham, that's Melech HaOlam. How's that Melech HaOlam? Because who's the one who introduced the world to Melech HaOlam? Who gave the people an understanding who the king of the universe was? That's Elokei Avraham. Because Avraham was the Elokei Avraham. As a result of that, that's why Hashem was Melech HaOlam. So even though you don't say the word Melech HaOlam, the God of Avraham, because he has this renown, that he has this credibility, this is how he became Melech HaOlam. So although we don't say the word Melech HaOlam, king of the universe, that is the equivalent of king of the universe for that reason. You will go to the land that I will show you. There I will make you into a great nation. And I will bless you. I will give you renown. I will make your name great. And you'll be a blessing. So the two interpretations of this pasuk. We understand. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. What is the blessing? How does that manifest itself? I will give you renown. We know what that means also. Let's see Rashi. Eschol godol. When one travels, a person is affected negatively, and it has a negative effect on the person's physicality. It causes one that he's not able to procreate as well. It minimizes procreation. Stop. Now, it's a known fact that people who are serious bike riders, they train for for all these cycling, these cyclists, ultimately their motility and the sperm count, it goes down, and it affects their ability to procreate. They can't have children. Why? Because from the pressure from riding the bike and applying pressure for this extended period of time, where you tax the body, it compromises one's ability to have children. It's a known fact. So therefore, when you travel, because it taxes the person, as a result of this, the walking, the stress, it minimizes. It doesn't. You can't have children. It compromises one's ability to have children. So how could the eschol godol? How are you able to have this great nation if your ability to have children is compromised? So that's what Hashem says. Despite that, I give you a bracha. That's the counter, the physical negative effect. You will not have the negative effect. When one travels, one can't engage in his business affairs, and you're uprooting yourself, that your initial material base is no longer there. Nevertheless, I will bless you. Despite that, you're going to have financial success. Umeta says Hashem, when a person sells a business, you sell the goodwill. Over the years, a person establishes goodwill. Why? Because people know you, you've been there, you have relationships, you pick yourself, go elsewhere, you have to start all over again. Umeta says Hashem, you not be concerned. Avram was known. In Choran, he's the person who came out of the kiln. That was within that same region. He's going to another region. He's not going to have that renown. Hashem says it's irrelevant. You will have the renown. Meta says Hashem. Therefore, Avram needed these three brachos. He will have children. He will have children, he will have sons, he will have finances, and he'll have renown. Okay, let's talk now. Money he had. Before Avram is in Canaan a short period of time. All of a sudden there's a famine. And that was a test. Here Hashem says, uproot yourself from your birthplace, from your countrymen, from your family, to the land that I will show you, and you'll have everything positive here. He's there a short period of time. He's leaving because of the famine. But what happened? He goes to Egypt. He has a whole story we discuss. Sarai Menu was a beautiful woman. He was concerned that she'll be taken, as she was taken by the king of Mitzrayim. But what was the end of the story? He left with wealth, which is one of a kind of wealth. So how did Hashem compensate him? Did he work for the wealth? Person builds a business for how many years it takes to build a business? Someone takes a lifetime. Avram Avinu, there's a famine, he goes to Egypt, and he comes back a short while later, laden with wealth, which he can't even deal with. And the whole discussion with him and Lot the dispute between the shepherds of Lot, the shepherds of Avram, was due to that wealth, because they both received tremendous wealth. So if Hashem says, I will give you great wealth, how do you have great wealth? He's no youngster. He's going to have great wealth. Even if he finds a gold mine, it takes time to mine that the gold from the mine. You know, you're not taking bullion out of the mine. You know, there's nothing beyond Hashem's ability. He goes to Egypt. He spends 3 months there, a short period. He's coming back with Fort Knox. There's Avram Avinu. Yeshua Hashem Kerefayin. Hashem says something, it's like a blink of an eye. That's Baba Rechacha. It may minimize you when you travel. You've lost your goodwill. You've lost it. He comes back. What level of wealth? He's the wealthiest man in Canaan. So he has wealth, he has renown. What gives credibility to a person? You have a person, he's a guest of honor. Why you make a guest of honor? An organization? Because the man has money. And if he's the guest of honor, he's going to speak. Yeah, you ever hear the person speak? Sometimes, you have to cringe what you hear coming out of that person's mouth. But there's an expression, in Yiddish. If you have those dollars, everybody says, this guy's a genius. He's a gift to humanity. How's he a gift to humanity? The moment he loses his wealth, he becomes an unknown entity. But Avram Avinu, he had what to deliver. He just needed the platform. He needed the pedestal. What launched him? What launched him was the story with the wealth. The king of Egypt, he was under the protection. What says over there, when he left Egypt, after what happened, when he took Sori Menu, he gave an order, nobody should touch him, and he had protection from the king of Egypt. Egypt was the height of civilization. So you understand? The man comes to Canaan, an unknown entity, leaves for a few months because of a famine, comes back with a level of wealth, with an escort of the king of Egypt, which is the height of civilization. Could you imagine? So within a moment, 2 of the brochas actually took place. 2 of the blessings. Avorechecho, v'agad lo shmecho. Children not yet, but 2 of that. But already he could launch his project of bringing monotheism to existence. The children, this should be a Klal Yisrael. That comes later. He's not ready for that. There's literally Yeshua Hashem Kerefayin. Just reading, it's very interesting. Reb Yerucham Levov Tzechet Tzarek Levrocha, the Mer Mashgiach, he shows, we find that on Pesach, chometz is not permitted, and only matzah is permitted. What's the difference between chometz and matzah? It says, Ushmartem es hamatzos. When you prepare the matzah, you have to watch over that dough. Of course, if you leave it and you don't work it continuously, it becomes leavened. So what is the cause of chometz? It becomes leavened. It's delay. There's a delay. But if you knead it and bake it immediately, it doesn't become leavened. Because it says that because we rushed out of Egypt, the matzah had no time to become chometz. So he explains it this way, that whole concept of delay within the realm of the spiritual world, there are no delays. Everything's immediate. The whole concept of when things drag and things are interfered with and things don't happen immediately, that's as a result of what? Of the evil that exists within existence. That undermines the spirituality of existence. That's the delay. Mitzvah liyotcha al tach mitzeno. A mitzvah that presents itself, don't don't delay it. Immediately tend to it. Anything spiritual, because it's spiritual, it's not supposed to be a delay. The Gemara tells us, the Midrash tells us, he doesn't bring this, that normally there's a gestation period, 9 months, from the time of conception till the child's born, it's 9 months. Before they ate of the Eitz Hadas, Cain was the first child, he was born before the Eitz Hadas. It says, 2 people went into bed. As they came out, there was a child born immediately. Cain was born as a fully developed person. How's it possible? The answer is the whole concept of delay or where you have to process something. It's not available. The bracha is hamotzi lechem min oretz. When we eat bread, we say hamotzi lechem min oretz. He takes bread out of the ground with bread. So the Gemara tells us that at the end of time, when you plant the seed, bread is going to grow out of the land, out of the earth. You're not going to have to remove the husks from the kernels. As it comes out, it's fully edible. Fully edible. That's hamotzi lechem min oretz. So the whole concept of delay. Avram Avinu represents the spiritual world. As we mentioned yesterday, the letters of Hiborom. Hiborom are the letters of Avram. It's the beginning of a new creation. This is a representation of the spiritual world of Avram Avinu. He gives him a bracha. How long did it take him to reach a level of wealth, which was one of a kind in the world? Goes to Egypt. There's one incident. He's on top of the world already. Almost instantaneous wealth at one of a level. What about renown? How long does it take to build goodwill, renown? Takes years, takes a lifetime. Avram Avinu, the moment he had that wealth and he was acknowledged by the king of Egypt, and he says, this is not the place for you. Because here we're people who are low-level people, and you're more advanced, and he gives him an escort out. He has world renown. Instantaneous. Literally. Everything about Avram's life, if you notice, Avram himself was born from Terach. We find the Rivka was an Akora. Sarah was an Akora. They were barren. That Yitzchak was born through a miracle. A miracle. That Yaakov was born was a miracle. Why couldn't he be born of a normal process? The mother conceives. The answer is no. These children are not part of humanity. It's a different aspect of existence. It's only due to direct divine intervention that she's able to have the child. Sarah Imenu had no reproductive organs. And yet, she was able to conceive. Hashem allowed her to have a child. It was a miracle. She developed those organs, although she wasn't born with them. Because Yitzchak represents the spiritual world. It's a different existence. Yaakov, his mother's Rivka. She's a what? She's the matriarch. Yaakov comes, and Chazal tell us, who named Yitzchak? Hashem named Yitzchak. Who named Yaakov? Hashem named Yaakov. Let's talk about Avram. Avram was born of a natural birth, right? His parents. Avram went into the kiln. We say every day, Atu Hashem Elokim, Hashem B'chatam Avram, V'otzeisum or Kazdim Samte Shemo Avraham. Why did he become Avraham? Because he came out of the kiln. Humanly, you go into a kiln, you don't come out of a kiln. So when he came out of the kiln, that was due to divine intervention. So Avram's function from that point going forward had nothing with Terach. Terach fathered Avram. But to become Avraham, that had nothing with Terach. That's Hashem's doing. It's again the same thing. Everything about Klal Yisrael, from the very beginning to launch it, to become the spiritual people, to counter everything which is negative in existence, was through divine intervention. Well, Avram made a choice to go into the kiln, but that he came out of the kiln, that was Hashem's intervention. And Hashem said, you will become Avraham because you went into the kiln. I took you out of the kiln to become Avraham. So Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, every one of them, they exist, we exist only through divine intervention. So you're going to be wealthy, you're going to have renown. You go to Egypt. Within moments, within a few days, he has one of a kind of wealth. Within a moment, when he gets that wealth, he has world renown. The child he couldn't have till he was ready for real time, because he had to perfect himself spiritually, that he should be ready to have himself circumcised. Until that, he wasn't able to have a child. But that child is very interesting. Eschol Goy Godol, you're going to have that child. He only had one son. Only one son. How could it be Eschol Goy Godol? So you'd say that's what ultimately will be the founding father of that great people. Eschad legoy godel. You understand? Whenever we speak about spirituality, it's always qualitative, it's never quantitative. Hashem says you can be like the stars of the heaven. When you save one Jew, you save the whole world. One Jew versus 8 billion people, one Jew has greater value than 8 billion people. Could you imagine? We're not talking about gross national product over here. We're not talking about a quantitative evaluation. We're talking about a qualitative evaluation. Same thing. Yitzchak, that one Yitzchak is the equivalent of all existence. Within his potential, he contains everything into the future. The reason why there's a Yitzchak, a Yaakov, is because that's Yitzchak. The reason why ultimately there were 12 Shvatim is because of Yitzchak. Yitzchak himself, in his DNA, lies V'eschad l'goy gadol, due to the promise that he said to Avram. So when Yitzchak was born, that was the goy gadol, because DNA-wise, the Klal Yisrael till the end of time is within in that DNA. So that's immediate. Avarechecho, b'momo. Avarech means I'll bless you with material, money, wealth. Svar macherim, another interpretation. Ba'gadlo shmecho, hareini mosif osal shmecho. I will make your name greater, not renowned. I will add a letter to your name. Shad achshav shimcha Avram. Until now, you were known as Avram. Mikan ve'elech Avraham. But going forward, you're going to be Avraham. Now, this is Avram Oler Ramach Kenegei Shalodam. And what lies within Avram, the numerical value of Avram is what? Is Ramach. Ramach. Avram is Ramach. Later we find, when was he given the name Avram? When he became circumcised. So Rashi over there explains that until he was circumcised, he had no full control over every aspect of his body. Where didn't he have control over? His eyes, his ears, and his sexual ability. When he was circumcised, he's fully in control. His whole entity becomes spiritualized, full control. It's interesting. What are the eyes? Chazal tell us that the eyes are sirsuri halev. The eyes are the brokers of the heart. You know, a person wants something, goes to a broker, he says, I want this type of painting. So the broker goes and finds the painting for him. So if the lev is chomed, the heart lusts, and the eyes seek out what the heart wants. Okay? We had spoken about many times, based on the Zohar, based on the Oles Ephraim, that just as there's an orla chitzoni, just as there's a foreskin on the outer part of the body, there's an orla pnimi, there's an orla on the heart. And the Ramban writes, we had in Dvarim, that when it says, Hashem will circumcise the foreskin of your heart and the foreskin of your children's heart. He says that's speaking about Yemos HaMashiach, the Ramban. And he says, since the Eitz Hadas, when he ingested the evil of that Eitz Hadas, a person lusts everything which is contrary to spirituality, to Kedusha. Stealing, sex, everything else that comes from, that's the Oral Salev. At the end of time, Hashem will remove that, and the heart will only desire only Kedusha. That's the Ramban. That's the Oral Salev. The circumcision, when he was given the mitzvah of Milah, it removed the Orla Chitzoni, the outer, and also it impacted on the Orla Pnimi, meaning that intensity to be drawn towards evil was minimized. As the Rechaim explains in the name of the Zohar, this Parshas Tazria. So it comes out the heart wasn't lusting before the Eitz Hadah, before he had the Milo, before the outer foreskin was removed. There was a greater intensity of lust of the heart. If that's the case, the eyes are the Sisuri Halev. The eyes are the brokers of the heart. As the heart lusts, that's the way the eyes seek out what the heart lusts. But since after the Milo, the heart was minimized, because it affected, it removed the Orla Pnimi, not like Yemos Mashiach. As a result, that the eyes don't lust as much. Now he can take control. He can take control over those eyes. Now he becomes Ramach. The sexual drive, it says a person lusts in two areas. Sexual, and also you want to amass wealth. Because wealth is power. That's ego. The moment he was circumcised, the heart became a different heart. The lusting became a different lusting. It was minimized. There now he's Ramach. He has control over his eyes. Because once the eyes are not the broker any longer, everything quiets down now. Now he's in full control. See, the adding of the hay was an indication that's agad lo shmecho. Because through that, that's the true advancement of who you become. And only then was he able to have the child. Until he was circumcised, before he was Avram had Yitzchok. Avram without they did not have Yitzchok. It was only that total person who was spiritualized. Only he had Yitzchok. That's the Ramach. The Gemara tells us that there's certain innate characteristics that every Jew is supposed to have, because we descend from Abraham and Yaakov. Rachmonim Baishonim Gomli Chasodim. Every Jew innately is merciful. Innately has shame, has conscience. Innately does acts of loving kindness. And if you see a person who does not have them, you have to question his pedigree. He's not an original Jew. Because if he's an original Jew, that's part of his DNA. So you have to question why does he behave differently? Okay? Because that's what we're made of. Our direction is rooted in who they were. And because we descend from them, as a result of we possess their DNA. We have their genealogy. Therefore, since Avram Avinu achieved this within his own neshama, he was ready. Therefore, his son Yitzchak was circumcised, and Yaakov circumcised. The mitzvah milas for the Jewish people. A non-Jew circumcised himself doesn't mean anything. It has an effect, but it doesn't mean what it means for the Jews at all. The Rambam writes in Mor Nevuchim that a person who's circumcised, it curbs the sexual drive. That's what the Rambam writes in Mor Nevuchim. Because you're damaging, you're tampering with the organ, that's the procreative organ, and that organ represents desire. So if you go and you alter it, you minimize the sexual drive. And that's the way they explain Yosef. Before we came to Egypt, Yosef had all the Egyptians circumcised. And he would not give them food unless they were circumcised. Remember the Chazal. Why? So it's explained because Yosef prepared the Jews for this exile. The Egyptians were at such a level of abomination, their behavior, everything, that if the Jews would have gone right in there, it would have affected us immediately negatively. So he wanted to raise their level, meaning he wanted to curb their sexual desire. They should be totally immersed in this. Therefore, he made a precondition. You want to live, you want to have food, have yourself circumcised. So even though it doesn't have the effect of what it means to a Jew, that it removes the inner impediments, but it does, you're actually minimizing that sexual drive. As a result of this, they're less involved in perversions, whatever they were involved in till then. He elevated them. Therefore, when we came to Egypt, it was more of an elevated society rather than this lowly society. So every Jew the profile of every Jew is Ramach. We have Ramach mitzvah say 248 positive commandments. Every positive commandment corresponds to an aspect of it in the Shema. The Chofetz Chaim always cites Reb Chaim Vital that the Jewish soul has 248 positive components, and each mitzvah say corresponds to one of those components. And when you do the mitzvah, it's an infusion of spirituality into that component. And that's how you advance and you perfect your neshama. By doing the mitzvah say, a non-Jew soul is a different soul. Doesn't have that. We're Ramach. The original profile of Adam Rishon, before he ate of the Eitz Hadas, had a semblance of that. He was able to achieve perfection. It was a totality. As a result of eating of the Eitz Hadas, he destroyed it, and that the potential to become Ramach, he was disenfranchised. We were given, through Avram Avinu, we were given Ramach. Ultimately, we achieved it at Sinai. When we were given the Torah, we fully had all the supply, so to say, to create this entity called Klal Yisrael, that spiritual representation in the world, and to advance it. Okay, we're going to continue this tomorrow.